All right, the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Military and Veterans Affairs will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Robinson.
Here.
Representative Cavett.
Here.
Madam.
Representative Rogers moves to approve the minutes of the April 24th meeting. There will be no objections. The minutes are approved. All right, so today should be just a fun little committee hearing today. We're going to hear from some folks from UWIL, Battle Buddy, and we're also going to hear from some folks from American Legions, VFW, and American and AMVETS halls and others. So we're going to start with the UWIL. Adam Ring, if you could kind of come up and whenever you're ready, go ahead and get started, sir.
Chairman Robinson and committee members. Yes, it is. Chairman Robinson and committee members, thank you for the invitation to appear before you today. My name is Adam Ring, and I represent UWIL, a leading mental health and wellness platform supporting over 3 million individuals worldwide. It's an honor to join you today to speak on this important issue. I'm here to discuss a specific opportunity to improve access to mental health care for Michigan's veterans, drawing on advances in technology that can make behavioral health treatment more accessible and effective. As you know, Michigan is home to approximately 500,000 veterans, and while the vast majority of veterans successfully transition to civilian life, a significant percentage experience ongoing mental health challenges ranging from post-traumatic stress to depression, anxiety, and substance use disorders. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, veterans face elevated suicide rates with nearly 18 veteran deaths by suicide per day nationwide. In Michigan alone, an estimated 176 veterans die by suicide annually. The suicide rate for Michigan veterans was 31.1 per 100,000 people, nearly double the rate for the state as a whole. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for veterans under 45. While the need for support is undeniable, sadly fewer than 50% of returning veterans in need receive any mental health treatment. Further, 41% of veterans were found to need mental health care. Underlying this are persistent issues, one of which is access, or lack thereof. Many veterans still face long wait times, limited local providers, or bureaucratic hurdles that discourage them from seeking care. For various reasons, others may not engage with the VA system at all. Traditional in-person therapy, while highly effective, often presents barriers, including geographic limitations. Veterans in rural states may have limited access to licensed mental health professionals in Michigan. And as we all know, in the state, veterans are disproportionately located in the state's most rural counties. Scheduling conflicts, work, family obligations, and other commitments can make attending regular appointments challenging. Stigma, concerns about confidentiality and societal perceptions can deter veterans from seeking help. Teletherapy offers a solution to many of these challenges by providing accessibility. Veterans can connect with licensed therapists from the comfort of their homes, eliminating travel and associated costs. Flexibility. Sessions can be scheduled outside of traditional hours, accommodating various schedules. Anonymity. Remote sessions can reduce the perceived stigma, encouraging more veterans to seek assistance. Speed. Veterans can immediately connect with licensed clinicians rather than having to wait times for weeks or sometimes months. Teletherapy is not a silver bullet, but it is a proven and practical solution to bridge these gaps in care and give veterans the care and support they need. Indeed, veterans use teletherapy when it's available. This isn't a theory. In 2022 alone, the VA reported that more than 2.3 million veterans used telehealth services with mental health comprising a large and growing share. Participating veterans have provided consistently positive feedback, especially those in rural areas or those with mobility limitations. UWIL was founded to expand access to mental health services by providing flexible, user-centered care delivery. We support 300 institutions across the country, including partnerships with schools here in Michigan, such as Michigan State University, the University of Michigan, and Western Michigan University. Key features of our model include 24/7 access and crisis support, veteran and user-directed therapist matching, licensed clinicians throughout the state of Michigan and nationwide, and support for multiple modes of care, including video, phone, chat, and messaging. We successfully implemented multiple systems and state-level programs. We know how to implement scale and evaluate impact effectively and understand the importance of integrating with existing services. Implementation recommendations. If Michigan is interested in increasing access for veterans via teletherapy, there are a few concrete steps the state can take. 1, pilot a 2-year teletherapy initiative for Michigan veterans. The initiative could provide free teletherapy access to veterans across the state to reduce barriers and gather data on veteran outcomes, engagement, and satisfaction. 2, work in coordination with MBAA and community-based veteran organizations. Outreach and trust building are key. Many veterans, of course, are already connected to peer networks or local nonprofits and may be able to more likely to engage with services introduced in those environments. 3, keep it simple. We've seen success in other settings when users can register independently, schedule directly, and choose their provider without having to navigate a multi-step approval process. 4th, track outcomes rigorously. UWIL provides anonymized usage and feedback scores so the state can evaluate performance and cost effectiveness. We're transparent with the data and can adapt quickly based on findings. At UWIL, we believe access to world-class mental health care is a defining issue of our time. This is not about duplicating services, it's about filling the gaps. For veterans who are not currently being reached or those who need more flexible care options. Teletherapy is not a theoretical model. It's working in higher education, workforce mental health, and increasingly in public sector. With a modest annual investment of roughly $10 per covered veteran, Michigan can extend these benefits to a population that needs and deserves more options. We encourage the state to consider a competitive grant process to identify teletherapy solutions that can best support Michigan's needs. Veterans in Michigan and across the country deserve at least this much and so much more. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to contribute to this important discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Adam. Could you talk, there's a couple questions we have for you, but could you talk about, from a practical standpoint, how this works? Like, so a veteran needs help, could you walk me through that process?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a few components. With respect to scheduled counseling, so what would happen is any of the covered veterans in the state would register on our platform. Once they register on our platform, they would indicate their criteria that they're looking for in a provider, including immediacy. So they may say, I'd like to be in an appointment tomorrow, next week, or in 2 weeks. They may have specificities on the provider's clinical focus, for example, anxiety or depression or PTSD. Then they're presented with clinicians to choose from, and then they can book an appointment directly with a licensed clinician based on their criteria, and then stay with that clinician as long as they like. So we're giving the veteran full autonomy to choose and get the help they need with the provider who they think is the best fit for them.
So let me ask you this really quick. That's great. Let's say we're talking about a veteran who's on the verge of suicide. Is they have to schedule an appointment? Is there any way for them to get, that service right away as opposed to setting up an appointment?
Yes. So the first component I mentioned is what we call U-Match, which is our scheduled telecounseling. The second component is U-Help. And U-Help, Chairman, addresses exactly what you're talking about. U-Help is a true crisis connection component. So veterans will be immediately connected with a licensed counselor trained in trauma or crisis. So in less than 30 seconds, they will speak to one of those licensed clinicians to get immediate help they need to obviously reduce as many of the suicides as possible in the state.
Thank you. Representative Rogers.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So I was the former health policy chair last term and prioritized making sure that we codified permanently in Michigan statute coverage for telehealth. So during the pandemic, we stood up federally coverage from insurance standpoint for telehealth, but every year they're kicking the can down the road federally, and there's an extension and there's another looming deadline this year. It's not permanent. So I was really proud that we had bipartisan support to have telemedicine supported in Michigan, just so you know. And where are you based out of?
We're based in Natick, Massachusetts.
Are you yourself in Massachusetts too?
No, I'm based just outside New York City.
Well, welcome to Michigan. I'm glad we are having some decent weather. Hopefully we hold off on the tornadoes for you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
My question is about kind of following up in the chair's footsteps. So I was just quickly scanning your website, the youwill.com website. I didn't see anything specific to veterans. So can you explain why your app and your services would be specific when there's tons of apps across the country, and I've sat in on some of these presentations. Can you talk specifically why your company is well suited for veterans?
Yes, absolutely. So just as some background, UWill was started 6 years ago, initially focused on youth mental health, specifically at colleges and universities. So it was quite clear that there was a tremendous imbalance of demand for services relative to the supply of providers. And as we started supporting one institution, then 10, then 100, and now over 400, we identified veterans specifically as having unique challenges. So as you know, between 5 and 6% of students in the United States are veterans, and our providers who we were working with came back and saying, this is a population that really needs specific support. Furthermore, we partnered with a group called the American Public University System, which is the largest provider of a degree-based education for active duty, military, veterans, reservists, and their families, approximately 100,000 individuals. And we really saw the need was very specific there, and we saw that particularly I think the focus on the anonymity, the convenience of teletherapy, the way to make it more accessible so that fundamentally when someone is having an immediate problem, they can get on our platform and they can be in a session on a same-day basis if they like, or use the crisis connection if they like. So really for us, veterans is a natural extension based on what our providers have told us, working with tens of thousands of veterans, and our general assessment of the current resources that are available.
Thank you. My comment real quick is just, I think there's a lot of these wonderful apps. The apps don't do us any good if the veterans don't know about them. So the other thing I think as a state we need to do is have a public awareness campaign in partnership with our friends at MBAA and others across the state.
And
thank you.
To piggyback on that comment, that's one of the with the stigma that comes with these types of issues, especially veterans. How are veterans going to even know about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's critical, and I referenced that earlier. Whether it's MBAA, and I see some folks here from American Legions, for example, those groups are critical. You have to have a real ground campaign to get the word out to those agencies. So part of our job, and we've worked with state initiatives across the country, is marketing and getting that word out, focusing on the stigma, making sure the veterans know what it is and what it isn't, that they know it's free for them, that they know it's anonymous, that it doesn't have to be a big issue, it could be any issue. But we have to work closely with those local agencies. Utilization is critical. If the state's going to make the investment, utilization should be a firm expectation. to justify the investment, and we understand how critical it is to work with those local organizations.
Representative Cavett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation and for acknowledging excuse me, and for acknowledging veterans in rural areas. I represent an area like that. We have the highest percentage of veterans in everywhere in the state, and it's a very rural area. And connectivity is a big problem, getting telehealth. What are some of your suggestions or a plan for rural areas like mine where internet access is not guaranteed?
Yes.
How do we bring that to the vets?
Yes, thank you for the question. So we've thought a lot about that because we're supporting, when you're supporting millions of individuals as we are, there are different access points. And so one of the things that's very nice is the multiple modalities. So for those that have the high-speed connection, they can use all of our components, the live video, the phone, the chat, or the messaging. If they don't have access to high-speed, but they do have access to the internet, they can use our asynchronous messaging or our scheduled chat. And if they don't have any internet access, they can do sessions by phone. So we really need to meet them where they are. Our whole goal is to provide access, and a key component of that is modality, and we don't assume everyone has got the latest and greatest connectivity. And so in that case, I think we would rely on the phone quite effectively.
Thank you, Chair.
Representative Maddock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How many veterans do you have that are logging in and using the app in Michigan?
In Michigan today, I would estimate probably about 20,000.
Can you just take a brief moment and tell us about Daryl McDaniels?
Sure, I'd be happy. So Daryl McDaniels, for those of you who don't know, is a music icon. He's the first hip-hop performer to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first to be on MTV, for those of you old enough to remember MTV. And he's been an influential leader for us, and is on our mental health advisory board, and someone who's been involved with You Will from the beginning.
Thank you.
One final question. Have you done this in other states? And could you talk about your success in those situations?
Sure. So we focused on a variety of state initiatives, primarily at the higher education level. So as an example, we have a partnership with the state of New Jersey where we support every higher education student in the state. So all 500,000 students have unlimited access to our services. And we work really closely with the local agencies there. Similarly, we have partnerships in Georgia, in Alabama with the community college system, which, as you know, has a very high percentage of veterans. And so we work closely with agencies. We understand that the agency is going to be overseeing this, and we have to have a strong collaborative relationship with them, provide the data they need to effectively manage the program, and we're very comfortable working at a large scale with systems and states.
Adam, thank you for your presentation. It's much appreciated. It's good to get answers to some of these questions, and thank you for coming in.
Great. Thank you very much.
Next up, we're going to hear from Joshua Parrish from Battle Buddy. Joshua, come on up, please, and whenever you're ready to get started, go ahead and tell us a little bit about Battle Buddy, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of this committee. My name is Joshua Parrish, and I am the co-founder of VetLife. I'm here today to speak about an app that should be in the hands of every single veteran in the state of Michigan. In 2019, Michigan fell within the bottom 5 states that effectively help veterans. In 2019, less than 18% of Michigan veterans were connected to a military benefit that they earned through their service. I was working for the state of Michigan at that time, for the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency as a regional coordinator. So I coordinated benefits for around 63,000 veterans. And what I found is it's not that these veterans don't want to gain access to their benefits, it's that we have a very fragmented system, meaning I have kind of coined it as a backward veteran resource provision model, and these gentlemen touched on it earlier. We expect the veteran to come to us to gain access to their benefits, but we don't explain to them what benefits they're entitled to or where to go to get them. So my wife and I
Let me
created.
interject. Most people, I'd say, talk closer to the mic. Come back from the mic a
back.
little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So my wife and I sat down and we decided to create this nonprofit called Vet Life. And since 2018, when we first started it, to date, we've helped over 143,000 veterans in Michigan gain access to their military benefits. And in 2023, we saw an increase for one of the first times in a decade of Michigan veterans gaining access to their benefits. Now we're at about 23% of Michigan veterans utilizing their benefits. This app that we created, Battle Buddy, is a one-stop shop. Whether it be education benefits, disability benefits, VA home loan, enrollment in health care, mental health services, we bring the resources to the veterans. And what I'm most proud of is something that we're building out right now is a lot of veterans don't want to talk to a mental health professional per se. So what we've built is an AI companion called Sam. So Sam is there 24/7 for you in a very non-adversarial way. If the veteran indicates through our large language model that they do want to harm themselves, we immediately connect them through a geofence type technology to the nearest resource. I honestly believe that we can get this in the hands of every single veteran in the state of Michigan. We're going to drastically reduce the veteran suicide rate. What we found, I'm an Iraq war veteran myself, what we found is that veterans lose a sense of purpose, a sense of identity when they leave the military, and most veterans don't wake up in the morning and say, I don't want to be here anymore. It's almost like a perfect storm. Veteran gets out, they ask for help, they don't get the help, then they start to spiral down mentally, and then it's a culmination. But I think if we can utilize this upstream model that Vet Life has created, we're going to be able to empower these veterans to be their own best advocates, and it's just going to naturally reduce the veteran suicide rate. We released the app 2 months ago. We've had over 43,000 downloads. I can tell you real time, and nobody can do this. These reports from the VA are 2 years behind. I can tell you real time right now exactly what these veterans and their families are searching for on the app. We've restructured the app a little bit to include state-specific resources, access to legal help, and VA home loans. Those were some of the biggest things that veterans were searching for. Happy to take any questions. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Joshua, thank you for your presentation. It's much appreciated. Could you talk a little bit about, there's a lot of organizations, well, there's not a lot, but there's several organizations who do what you do. Could you talk about how you stand out and what you do that's differently that helps reach more veterans in that aspect as far as the helping them with their benefits aspect?
Yeah. So I'm honestly the only app that I'm aware of that offers all-in-one resources in this country right now. I'll give you an example. Disability compensation. For every 7,000 veterans in this country, there's only one accredited VSO. In Michigan alone, for every 1,712 veterans, there's only one accredited VSO. As you know, your accredited VSO is your generally accepted practice to gain access to essentially a myriad of benefits, but primarily what we see is in the disability compensation realm. So what our app does and what sets it apart is, so we don't compete in the space of, like, let's say coalition VSOs or the MVAA or the County Department of Veterans Affairs. What we do is we complement those services because all we want to do is get the veteran down to those vetted resources. So for example, disability compensation, veteran logs onto the app, we immediately ask, have you ever filed a disability claim? If they say no, then we ask them to create an e-benefits account. They create the e-benefits account. We say, all right, have you ever done an intent to file? Anybody that's ever worked with veterans know that the intent to file locks in the effective date for 365 days. We have a welcome home packet that I've never seen before that explains exactly what documents the veteran needs to gather, and then we have a checklist. So we have timely check-ins. Hey, Mr. Chairman, we see that you have 4 of 8 documents. You still need 4 more documents. You have 200 days left to gather all these documents. So the reason why I brought the statistic up of 1,712 veterans to 1 VSO is that the system is bogged down. So we think if we can get the veteran about 90% of the way, gather all the documents, do the intent to file, then we can get the veteran in contact with an accredited VSO down to the county or the coalition level.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on the committee? Representative Rogers?
Thank you for your presentation. So the question I have is, again, with a lot of these apps, it helps streamline connection to services. But again, just like I made the point to the last presenter, if the veterans don't know about it. So what's your plan, number 1, to get the word out about the app and the service? And then number 2, sometimes there's with AI, there's various issues with AI because it's a model, right? It's not a human interaction always. So are there safeguards to prevent misinformation or misunderstandings from veterans so that doesn't add to the stress and anxiety and psychological trauma that they have?
Yeah, great question. So my wife and I have done this in successive steps. We started with in-person events to create our database. So we created an event called VetFest, which is now the country's largest free outreach event for veterans and their families. We get on average anywhere between 3,500 to 4,000 people at each event. So we have a very large database. We've aligned ourselves with large service organizations. We've aligned ourselves with the country's largest online gaming community for veterans. We've aligned ourselves with all 83 county Department of Veterans Affairs. One thing I did not mention is I come from a county background. I was a veteran service officer and a program director for Livingston County Veteran Services. And I believe that I've built the trust and integrity up within the veteran community since we started this. So I don't have a problem getting this in the hands of Michigan veterans. That's not my problem. I just want to work with vetted resource providers, whether that be in the mental health space, the education, VA home loans, because where I'm seeing the real issue is the preferred method for a lot of these veterans right now is to go on Google and type in VA home loan. And the best option isn't number 1. It's whoever paid most for the search engine optimization up there. So us bringing the resources to the veteran, I think, is really what's going to cut a lot of the red tape out. Now, as far as the AI based, so the app is really a hybrid model of decision tree, which is already predefined. And then the AI within the AI mental health space, you actually train the large language model yourself. So I don't have an issue with it veering off or, coming up with like a mind of its own. We do have a very aggressive media campaign model that we've been utilizing through. We have a radio show called From Glory Days Veterans Edition, really breaking down the stigma of what AI is and how if it's used effectively, it can be very beneficial and educational for veterans. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Representative Cavett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I was curious on your funding, and is it private funding or public funding, or how you're financing your project, and also how you secure those information. That's very sensitive information you're gathering there. It could be used for nefarious purposes. So just curious what kind of safeguards you have in place to protect our veterans online.
Yeah, of course. Great question. Primarily all private funding right now. So donations, grants through private foundations, and fundraising activity right now. We haven't received any state or federal funding for the application. To answer your question, so it's end-to-end encrypted. It's a SOC 2 compliance, meaning that the encryption software we have is equivalent to like AWS. Amazon's cloud experience. So we do have monthly screening on the back end of our app developers that ensure that none of the information is going to be leaked.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? No? Joshua, thank you for your presentation. Much appreciated. And thanks for keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, at this next group of folks, we're going to hear from folks from American Legion as well as some VFW halls, and it's not exclusive to the Marine Corps, but all the branches. And there's a saying, "No man left behind." Right? You don't leave left behind. Well, it seems like a lot of our American Legions and VFW halls and AMVETs and all these facilities that cater to veterans are kind of left to their wares to do things on their own. So I've been asked to consider, maybe helping those facilities out. So that's what this next group of folks are going to talk about the need to double back and help with their facilities and their organizations. Let's go. Tim Poxon from the American Legion, if you could come up and kind of talk a little bit about your chapter and why maybe a grant program would be something that you guys would really need.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me, members of the committee. Most of you know me. I'm Tim Poxon. I am the legislative chair for the American Legion Department of Michigan, which means I don't just represent Lansing area. I represent veterans from across the state, whether they're members of the American Legion or not. The American Legion is the largest veteran organization in the state of Michigan, in the United States, and in the world. We have approximately 300 and, as of this morning, 55 posts across the state of Michigan. Not all of those are owned or are being bought by the posts themselves. Some of them meet in libraries or other places like that. Our posts are in dire need of repairs and, for example, I'm actually affiliated with the post in Holt. We have windows on the back of our post that need to be repaired, or replaced, actually, not repaired. And our cost that we're getting from contractors is about $8,500 just to replace these windows so that we can stop losing heat and air conditioning in the summertime, and also make the building look better and more attractive. We have in our post, last I checked, it's near 200 members. So our posts across the state run from any place from 10 members all the way to the largest post is in Howell, and they have well over 500 at this point, is my understanding. So we do have immediate needs. Of course, I understand that this bill is not even a bill, excuse me, but this is a concept you're looking at. We would like it to be directed at the post, because these posts don't just serve veterans, they serve your communities. For example, we have in our post, and I'll talk about my post because I know the most about that, we have a baseball program for youth. We sponsored the Holt District's bowling teams and actually paid for their bowling, paid for their uniforms, and all that sort of thing. We've sponsored the, it's something that they're doing nowadays that I don't have anything know of, but it's Airbot. They put together different things and make these things move around and all that sort of thing. We sponsor that also. So we do a lot of things in the community, not just for veterans, but for the community. And most every post, that's part of their function. They have to work with the community. They're not there just to have, for example, some posts have bars and some don't. But that's not their primary function. Their primary function is to help your community, wherever they're located. And if they're not doing that, they're not doing the job they should be doing. But for the most part, we had hoped that you would consider a grant program that would help our post and the VFW post and the other nonprofit veterans organizations across the state make repairs and fix up their posts so that we can get the younger generation to start coming in, and they realize that we're more than just a bar and that sort of thing. But basically, I'm just here to push for that end of it. And Chair, thank you very much for inviting us here to be here today.
Thank you, Tim. Let me ask you a question. Like, you mentioned a specific project that you your chapter could really utilize. But where do you get the money to do these renovations? I mean, you can only raise so much on fish fries and bingo nights, right?
That is correct, but that's how we get the money. It's all donations because we're a nonprofit. The only part of the American Legion that's not really that we do get some state money for is our service officer program. We have 72 service officers around the state of Michigan, and the state of Michigan helps fund that. We've been doing that for over 100 years before the state of Michigan ever got involved in it. And those service officers and the grant from the state of Michigan equals 4.2 million, excuse me. And that money hasn't gone up in years. But yeah, we get it from fish fries, as you said, and other donations, but we are a nonprofit and receive no government funds for our organizations.
Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for being here. I think this is a really important discussion, so I'm excited to hear from you all. Can you speak a little bit about, I know a lot of the VFWs and American Legions help with other community events or allow folks to utilize their spaces. Can you talk a little bit more about the additional kind of community aspect
Sure.
of what you all help with?
Sure, and I'll speak to ones I know of, just so I'm not getting off base here. But in our particular one, we have had and in the past had a squadron of the not the National Guard, but the Coast Guard come in and actually teach to the community boater safety. Some of our posts around the state have Boy Scout groups and Girl Scout groups, whatever they're called nowadays. I might be using the wrong phrase. We also have had parades during Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, those sort of things. We actually usually run those for the Parks and Recreation departments in different parts of the state. We helped raise money for a park in Delhi Township and some of the equipment there. But these are all community things that our post does. Posts are involved in all sorts of things. Their buildings are used for different things. Some of them have bingo, which they may be sponsoring, or it might be a community event for some other part of the community that needs to have a place to hold a function like that, and then the money goes to those organizations. So you name it, they probably do it or have done it in the past. And thank you for the question, Rep.
Chair, if I may just follow up briefly. I just thank you for that. I think one of the things that I've seen from both the VFWs and the American Legions is they really do serve a broader community aspect in addition to the important work that they do with our veterans. And so I think that that's a really important thing. I see it all the time throughout my district and throughout other places in the state of Michigan. They really are a community hub and resource that I have great respect for. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Representative Maddock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Tim. There's only so much money that's available to help veterans, and I just want you to know that we have your back.
Thank you.
I think we have some ideas and ways to get you some money by cutting a wasteful bureaucracy that really doesn't do much, and get you guys some money. Thank you.
Question, Rep? Or just want to make a comment? Okay.
That's good.
Well, Tim, thank you for coming in. And, in addition, I'm glad that came up about because, we're going to hear from John Marinick here in a minute from My American Legion. In addition to the fine work that you guys do in the community, I think it's important not to forget that a key part of these facilities is the fellowship, right?
That is correct,
And,
sir.
although the Marines will battle with the Army and the Navy and all that, there's a club, right? And we're all in this together. So I think that can't be underestimated, is the importance of fellowship among veterans. And then you add the whole community involvement. I just think that your groups have been ignored so long. So I'm excited that you guys are coming to tell your story. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, and of course the Air Force is involved.
Yes,
too.
sir.
Air Force
Yes, sir.
veteran. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I was at Lackland for MP school. Best job I've ever had. And that, yeah, so I'm a fan of the Air Force. So thank you. John Marinick, would you come up, please? Yeah, can't forget the Coast Guard.
Good morning, Chair Robinson and committee members. I'd like to thank you, give me the opportunity to come up here and express our concerns and our needs at our local American Legion post in Utica. I can add to what Mr. Paxton added by saying we're a fabric in our community. We belong in the community. We support the community 100%. Give you examples. We support many groups: the Utica Lions, the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, the Marine Corps League Detachment 154, Macomb County Marines, Utica High School, Mission Barbecue, the Parkinson's Foundation. Matter of fact, you got to be back to the post at 1300 for that. The Jeep Babes, I don't know if you've heard of those folks, but I'm sure you probably heard of 92 for 22 out of Grand Rapids. They got a big event at our place this weekend. We give them the whole parking lot, the building, everything, and they do a fundraiser. This is going to be their 4th year at our place. Last year, they were able to raise $12,500, and it all went to the prevention of veteran suicide and veterans in need. Those are just some of the things that we do, that we give them the building and everything for free. Again, we're a nonprofit. We don't make a lot of money, but we have to support our community. There's other things that we do as well. I work real well with our mayor in our city. We support their car shows, their Memorial Day parade. Anything that the city has going on, we're there. And we do our part to help them, and they obviously try to help us as best they can. Other things that we do in the community, as you mentioned earlier, we have our bingo. We also have a Detroit church that comes in. We have church at our building every Sunday. We have veterans coffee hours for veterans who are seeking assistance or needs. They can have one-on-one with representatives that come from the county or from the VA, because they come to our building because they know there's that fellowship, that friendship, and they can actually talk to somebody. Nothing against AI, but a lot of people want to speak to a human being. They don't want to see something on an app or something and not know what they're getting into. And they feel more comfortable talking to a fellow veteran who's shared their experiences or can relate to them. Also, we've done many other things with blood drives, Toys for Tots, picnic. We've had our annual picnic, and we've had the VA come out and actually sign people up and take care of them. We had a gal that came out a couple years ago from New York on her own. She was making notification and trying to raise funds for the prevention of veteran suicide, and she came to visit a mother from Warren, Michigan. And she had a chance to talk with her after her son committed suicide 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. But while she was at our place for 3 or 4 days, in her trailer, in our place, advertised, unfortunately, we had 2 veterans that came in on 2 different days, and she just told me it was a good day because she saved another life. So those are the things that we do that people don't see or understand. Along with our Thanksgiving baskets, our Christmas baskets, we take care of veterans and their families. We also take care of people that are in need in our community. We have a joint venture with a food bank and a local church. So even if we have somebody who's not a veteran, if they're a community member or something, we do our best to help them and take care of those folks. We also have to have the big problem, and I guess this is where this all comes to flourishing. Many organizations, that I've just listed above, including VFWs and that, some of us have teamed up together. They've closed their buildings because they just can't take care of the overhead. You look at all the utility costs, the insurance, the equipment, bookkeeping, building maintenance, things that are going bad and what have you, not to mention the burden that it puts on all the groups because, the other groups don't have that overhead. So that's why they're at the American Legion, because we're a staple in the community. We've been there for over 100 years. So that's why they come to us and we open our doors and do the best we can for them. And obviously, the big thing is a lot of, as Tim mentioned earlier, some people think that everybody just comes to a bar. Not every American Legion post has a bar. I happen to have a club room, which is probably kind of similar in nature. But it's not just a bunch of old folks or old veterans sitting there telling old war stories. There may be a few that go on, but the big thing is the camaraderie, the friendship, and bringing folks in together. At my particular post, we have over 227 veterans members. We have close to 67 SAL members, which are Sons of the American Legion. Those are members whose relatives served in the military, but they didn't serve, but they can join and come in and help. And then we have our auxiliary as well, and I believe we were around 72 members with our auxiliary there. And those are things, other parts of our organization that help and do things in the community and support other things. And I guess I'll just add to say, anything that you can do to assist us veterans was certainly appreciated. And I want to thank the committee and the committee chair for giving me this opportunity to come and speak for you. And if you have any questions, I'll try to do my best to answer them.
John, let me start with a question. Could you, and obviously you would like to do some renovations inside the hall, but where your chapter is really, the parking lot's in bad shape. Could you talk about not only how bad that parking lot is, but how it led to the fact that it's in shambles led to a lawsuit?
Yeah, currently we're going through that right now, unfortunately. And yeah, again, because we open our doors and we let everybody use the building, nobody donates money. And then the only way we do raise money is through fish fries or other things. Well, that helps, but that doesn't cover the bill. Right now, we've looked at trying to get our parking lot done, and last year's estimates were $300,000. I can tell you after COVID, if it wasn't for the city of Utica having us in the Downtown Development Authority, our doors would be closed because we were able to get an SBA loan for $30,000. We're still paying that off. We owe $28,000 to that. And if we wouldn't have got the SBA loan, we would have been closed. But anyway, needless to say, because of the use of our place and no monies to put back into it or monies to help, and don't get me wrong, we have done many other things. I have done letters and everything, and members can only do so much, but we've had to replace boilers, cooler, refrigerators, doors, and every time we take 2 steps forward, we seem to take 2 steps backwards because there's always something that's always piling up, and we just can't get it all done. So that's why we need the help, and help would be much appreciated. But again, we had an incident where a person slipped, and we're currently going through a lawsuit, and they're just saying, hey, it's because your parking lot's in bad shape.
Thank you. Any other questions? John, thank you for coming out. I'll let you go. I know you got 1,300 you got to be there, so thank you for using military time.
No problem, Chair Robinson. Thank you so much, and committee members. Have a good day now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's bad. Next up, we have a Zoom call from, I hope I don't butcher this man's name, Todd Wadzinski. Todd, did I say that right, via Zoom?
Yep, that's exactly right. It's a good Irish name, right? Wadzinski. All right, Mr. Chairman and members of the community, thank you so much for letting me speak with you today. I think the other gentleman covered the importance of veterans of foreign wars and American Legion posts out in our communities. I wear a lot of hats in life, and the hat I'm wearing today is as Senior Vice Commander of the Clawson American Legion Post 167, and I'm also the commander of the Troy Veterans of Foreign War Post 4037. So I'm serving at the grassroots level at a physical post representing both organizations. And I can tell you firsthand the challenges that we have maintaining the infrastructure. 3 years ago, I took over a failing post. Myself and a couple other individuals contributed over $50,000 of our own money to stabilize the building, roof patches, plumbing fixes, HVAC repairs, some refurbishment just to make it functional for the veterans in our community. And there's a lot more to do. Like a lot of posts, we struggle with parking lots and new roofs and, structural issues with the buildings. In our case, our building's over 100 years old. So I just want to emphasize that, we're willing to help ourselves. And we're doing that, and we're accomplishing the mission of both organizations. Last year, the Troy Clawson posts were a shining example for the country. We were number 1 in our division in recruiting. We doubled the size of our membership. We were designated All-American and All-State at the post level. And we do a lot of things in the community. Some of them were mentioned: Toys for Tots, homeless veteran stand downs, mental health symposiums, blood drives. We give scholarships. We gave $3,000 worth of scholarships last year to members of the community. We support the band for Memorial Day and for Veterans Day at the Troy City Hall. And we're contributing as well to the state level, right, with taxes. So we generate sales tax revenue through our canteen. We generate gaming revenue through our canteen as well. So we're contributing at that level. So we're doing all the things that we're supposed to do, right, as veterans representing our groups in the community. But it's hard to do it alone, right? I mean, we answered the call when we were called upon to serve. Whether you're Legion, you served honorably, or you're VFW and you served in combat or hostile fire situations, we're answering the call. And I think, that's really the crux of what we're asking for here is some help from the community, from the state level, whether it's in the form of a grant or matching funds or low interest loans or other sources of revenue that we can generate on our own. We just need that help for the major infrastructure because those costs are just beyond our ability to raise, through fundraising. And once these posts are lost, they're impossible to replace. That's why our building is both the VFW post and the American Legion post because Clausen gave up its building, and once it's gone, right? So it's just really important that you consider helping us as we help ourselves and we contribute to the communities that we serve.
Anybody have any questions? Todd, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Much appreciated. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, one last speaker, Dave Ellis from the VFW in St. Clair Shores. Dave, come on up, please. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Push to talk, right? Chairman Robinson, committee members, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. As Chairman Robinson said, my name's Dave Ellis. I am the commander-elect of the Bruce Post Veterans of Foreign Wars located in St. Clair Shores. We are the largest VFW post in Michigan with over 800 members. We also have a very active auxiliary chapter that also has about 800 members. Our post was formed after the First World War, and we celebrated our 90th anniversary last year in August. In the city, in fact, last week, with the mayor and all the city council members, put a historical marker in front of the post, recognizing the post's contributions to the city and long history with the city of St. Clair Shores. We are in a building that we moved into 60 years ago, 1965, 60 years ago. We've been successful for years using post member volunteers to do self-help projects that include major renovations, carpentry, masonry, plumbing, electrical work. But our capacity to continue that is diminishing. The average age of our membership is 70 years old. So it's fair to say that we have an aging self-help workforce. Additionally, there's problems you'd expect in facilities that are grounds that are that old that we don't have the expertise, equipment, and resources to fix. For example, as mentioned several times today, our parking lot is cratered and unsafe, and is in desperate needs of resurfacing. And that's as a safety, not as an aesthetic issue. We have already had multiple falls in our lot, caused at least in part due to its bad condition. And we've been given estimates in the $200,000 range for resurfacing that lot alone. Our plumbing, our electrical systems are kind of a similar story, and it's no exaggeration to say that we have continuous and ongoing problems with them just due to age, that we are dealing with something also weekly. And while we're having these problems, we haven't been idle. We continue to work number of ways of generating income to produce, to make ourselves self-sufficient. In addition, several things mentioned, and Tim mentioned gaming. We are open to we have a club room that's open to the bar for food only, during the day, and we get a fair amount of business, and we generate a fair amount of income for the state in gaming alone. We also have a beautiful hall that's all been done by self-help, by member work, and The most common, and it's a destination. It's busy every week, almost every weekend, particularly in the summer, with wedding receptions. And the most common comment we hear when people walk into that hall, and I can't wait to show it to you, is, "I've never seen a VFW like this." And that's all been done by self-help of members. But again, most of them are about, they're over 7 years old. And we generate enough income in the last 3 years to remain to work in the black and still pay over about $100,000 for an HVAC system. So we're not wringing our hands here. But I'll go back to this other point that we made. In addition to what we do for our veterans and their families, our post is basically the city center for lots of other groups. There's other veteran groups that don't have facilities like the 82nd Airborne, the Veterans of Vietnam, that are groups that don't have a place to meet. They meet at our place. Our local first responders, both our local police, fire departments have meetings and training events there almost on a weekly basis, as do 2 chapters of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And in St. Clair Shores, the Coast Guard Auxiliary is a pretty important group. And as I mentioned also, we have scout troops that come. As I mentioned, our average age is 70, and we've really done a good job. We have done a good job attracting younger veterans from the Gulf War and Afghanistan into our post. But if we're going to continue to be able to offer them the kind of post and place that they deserve to have as they go on, and continue to give the outreach to the community that we provide, we're going to need help. And just fixing the parking lot would go a long way towards ensuring our long-term survival so we can continue to support our veterans and their families and our community at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Does anybody have any questions? No? I thank you, Dave, and I thank everyone who came out to testify today, and definitely given us a lot of food for thought. I really appreciate you, and thank you for your service, and thank you for coming. So, there being no further business before the subcommittee, this subcommittee is adjourned.